Hello everyone. Today we once again have another teaching concepts video in regards to Pokemon Draft. Today, as per the fan poll that went out a couple months ago, maybe, it might have been a minute, but here finally is. Today we're going to be talking about playing to your strengths, what that means, what that looks like practically when you're going into a matchup week to week. Real quickly, before we get too deep into it, I just want to say, it's been said a couple times, but we have totally revamped the content team going into the season for King's Court, headed by myself and Loker as the two guys leading the charge on that. And we've brought in a whole bunch of super great people who are really excited to make a lot more videos than we have in the past. We've already put out one produced entirely by Applethroat yesterday, so be ready for a whole lot more stuff coming out this season, especially in week 0. We have a bunch of leagues. We want to get content out for each and every one of them, so look forward to that. But for today, let's just jump into this quick concepts video on playing to your strengths. And the real core of this question is how you approach a matchup. What are the first things that you load into your builder, and what are the first things you notice about a matchup? And I'm a firm believer that the way that you approach a matchup, the first things you notice, will completely shape the way that you go into the rest of the matchup. Now, what do I mean by that? If you approach a matchup, you notice, let's just say, you're weak to something offensive. There's a guy on the enemy team, he's very good at you, it's going to be hard to stop him defensively. In my opinion, if you bend over backwards to try and reshape that, make it a little more better, it's going to be making the rest of your builder worse, and you should be approaching matchups by saying, hey, this is something that looks good for me, how can I best support that? Because if you do it that way, you're going to be asking questions that help you actually win the game much, much easier. And in my opinion, if you have a more positive view of your matchup, even if this is just like purely mental, if you come into something, you have a very negative view of your matchup, I just think it's better to, in your mind at least, have a much higher view of the matchup. Now, this is more of a personal take from me. I've never really been a fan of people saying their matchup is bad or something. Obviously, that's not me saying bad matchups exist. Of course they do. It would be stupid of me to say that they don't. But again, I feel like that's just not the way you should be approaching a matchup. I feel like you're making your decisions in play worse when you approach a matchup like that. And just mentally, it might lead you to make some worse decisions. Now, obviously, again, quick disclaimer, this is not me saying that you shouldn't be aware of when something is good into you and, you know, adjust appropriately. But I think that's not where you should start. When you start, I think there's a very quick and easy 2-step plan to identify something on your team that looks good. This can be offensively, obviously. If something is very well positioned to tear through the enemy team, then that's pretty obvious. But also defensively, say you have a very strong defensive piece and it walls many things on the opposing team except for a few exceptions. That can also be an example of saying, hey, this is something on my team that looks good defensively as well. So once you identify that, you can go on to step 2, where you go, okay, this thing looks good. How can I further support what it wants to do? Or how can I take out things that are in the way of that piece? So let's just take a quick example of this matchup right here. This is a matchup I played a couple months ago. And one of the first things I noticed when you load into this builder is that Iron Boulder looks very, very threatening here. Obviously, it's faster than anything else in the game. It can even boost its own speed if it so wants to. Rock Stab is very, very threatening here. There are not many rock resistance on there. The Steel type on the enemy team is neutral to rock type damage. So if I can get a Swords Dance boost, I can be very, very threatening with that. You know, one of the only other rock resist on the team folds to a psychic move So if I'm able to get a Swords Dance onto my Iron Boulder, it could be very, very threatening. But there's one big caveat in this. There's a big, big obstacle in this plan. That, of course, being that very bulky Swampert. It can invest a lot into physical bulk. It can be threatening. It can roar it out, stuff like that. So, where do I go from there? I could do things like run Terra Blast, Grass if I wanted to, but then that opens me up to things like Skarmory and Slowking Galar being very threatening into me. I don't really want to do that. How else can I best support my very strong Iron Boulder in this instance? Well, in this matchup, one of the things I decided on was to go, okay, I'm going to try something offbeat, something different that my opponent might be expecting on a Mon that lures in Swampert, that being Infernape. Not fantastic switch-ins on the other team to this Infernape Mon, so if I could run something offbeat, like a Power Herb mixed Infernape with Solar Beam, that could be a way to catch Swampert off guard and just eliminate him for my Boulder before anything else can happen. So you could see the thought process there. That was our identification step. Iron Boulder looks good. Our support steps was to say, hey, how can I break through this problem for my Iron Boulder? The solution we found was to try and catch it off guard with a very strong grass move on something that might otherwise lure in that swamp, and try and take it out that way. So that's an example of how this can be done during the actual building phase, but this is a good point to refresh a concept I've talked about a little bit before, because I think it applies here, and it's one of the most important skills that you can have in the game of Pokemon. So when you're in the battle, you can do something related to playing to the strength, which I call it zooming out. You can call it whatever. You could call it planning ahead. It's a very important skill when you're in that game itself. Take a step back, think about more than just the next couple turns, because I think it can be very easy to fall in a groove of just thinking a couple turns ahead. I'm going to do this, then when my opponent responds, I'm going to do this other thing. But one of the most important skills you can have is to be able to zoom out, look towards the end of the match, even if we're not in the end game yet. Remember the victory win conditions we set for our strong pieces in the builder. What did that look like? How close are we to setting up that victory, removing all the obstacles that we're trying to play for? And if we haven't done that already, what do you need to do in order to set it up? And what specific actions must you do to achieve those steps? If you do not consistently plan ahead to the end of the match at any point in while you're playing Pokemon, you will just not be able to consistently win. I'm sorry, it is an absolute necessity of a skill that you need to have in order to be consistent in this game. So just as a quick refresher on this quick video, some practical takeaways. When you're approaching matchups, try to look at a more positive light rather than mentally starting yourself off on that back foot. You know, of course, be aware of things that are bad for you, but I think more importantly, you should try to figure out what is good for you first and how you can best play to remove those obstacles. As a quick final example, the other day I was helping someone with their matchup, and there's this Mon on the enemy team. They had a lot of trouble walling it. It was a Mega Frostlass. They had a lot of trouble walling it defensively, and they kept trying to be, I don't have a switch-in for this. What do I do for this Mon? What do I do for this Mon? And instead of that, trying to think about, how do I answer this Mon? Sometimes, and this is what I told him, you got to be okay, I have a bad matchup into this Mon. What I can do instead to try and take advantage of it is do things like set up Stealth Rocks and then play it a little more offensively, maybe sack a few more Mons than you might usually sack in order to get in Revenge Killers, threaten it out, take it out that way, so it's a lot less scary, because it was a guy you couldn't really approach from a traditional defensive stance. So that kind of mindset can apply here as well. And as I just said before, when you are in the game, always take time to zoom out and think about the game plan you've created and how you can set up that positive game plan that you came in the battle with. So again, a shorter one today, but please be on the lookout for more content. PRs are going to be coming out next week, and there's going to be a whole lot of them. We got a lot of leagues. We got a lot of really excited guys to pump those out, and I'm really looking forward to what the future of content in this league is going to be looking like. So if you've made it this far, thank you very much, and good luck in week 0 starting in a few days.